What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 24 driver career mode, and we're here for round number 5 of our Formula 2 season, and it is time for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix here in Imola. Now, if you didn't watch the last video, it was the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and we had a pretty tough weekend, all things considered, off the back of a really strong run of form where we got a couple of victories over the course of the Saudi Arabian and Australian races. In Azerbaijan, we came crashing back down to earth with 2 P17s. So, yeah, we walked away from that weekend pointless. We currently lead the Drivers' Championship by 1 point, and we lead the Constructors' Championship thanks to a good performance from Brad Benavidez in Azerbaijan. He won the feature race, I believe, or came third in the feature race actually, but he got pole and then came third. So yeah, I'm hoping to bounce back here in Imola. Obviously you might have just seen then in practice I did get the fastest time, however the session got wet very quickly, so it was kind of hard to say whether that was my true pace or not. But here we go now, we're into qualifying for the 5th round of the Formula 2 calendar, and this is going to determine my starting position for the feature race. We're out here on a set of super soft compound tyres, so hopefully I will be able to set a competitive lap time. You might have just seen there, Teo Porcher just went fastest with a 1:27.5, so hopefully we'll be able to challenge that time and be there or thereabouts at the end of the session as well. And we crossed the line with a 1:27.1, which was actually very, very encouraging. It made me think, you know, maybe this is possible that we can actually, you know, contend for pole position here and actually do quite well. And you will be quite surprised to find that actually the session got wet after that point, so anyone who didn't go faster on their first lap will be regretting it, because there was not room to improve afterwards. You can see I did try and go out for another lap, but we were 7.5 seconds slower than on our previous lap. Crossed the line, but it doesn't matter because it is going to be P1 pole position, so we'll be starting in first for the feature race, but before then of course there will be the sprint race as well.
It's time to leave for now, but we'll be back tomorrow when the feature race gets itself underway.
So yeah, it was a pretty good time of things. You know, we were 7/100ths faster than Deruvula. It wasn't a complete blowout or anything like that. You know, 1 second between all the cars in qualifying. Once again, very, very close margins. And it means we will be starting in P10 for the sprint, of course, but hopefully there will be some room for us to make our way through the field at least a little bit during that race. And I'm pretty optimistic that we should be able to score good points here, especially in the feature race, starting from first. You know, we could potentially aim for the win, but we'll see what we can do as we get into the sprint.
So it's all about speed in today's sprint race then. Not very many laps and no chance to get ahead on strategy. Who here today has the raw skill to take them to the top? Unlike many of the other tracks our Formula 2 drivers will be familiar with, Imola is driven anti-clockwise, and a lap around here is just over 3 miles of hard racing. We can expect that to be even more challenging than usual given the conditions here today. 19 turns along the route, 9 to the right and 10 to the left. The rain is going to play merry havoc with the drivers' braking performance. Pay special attention to turn 16, where drivers will also need to factor in the elevation change as they try to nail their braking and perfect their line into the longest straight on the circuit. It's Formula 2, it is the sprint race. I'm Alex Jakes, Alex Brundle is alongside me. Now Alex, there's no mandatory stop in the rules, but this is Formula 2. Anything could happen.
We have seen stops before at the end of the sprint race, jumping onto that softer compound of tyre and having at it for the final few laps of the race. Indeed, we've seen sprint races won like that, so anything could happen out there. Don't send the pit crew home just yet.
Well, it is the Great Emilia-Romagna boat race today, and the projected situation, they're saying I should be on the medium compound of tyres. Now that obviously is rubbish because it's pouring with rain. However, they wouldn't let me go on the wet compound of tyre for whatever reason, so my only choices were medium or super soft. I decided to go with the medium because obviously I'm going to want a set of super softs for tomorrow. I checked the race director quickly, everybody else is starting on the mediums, so whilst this is of course an issue, it's an issue that affects everyone equally, so shouldn't confer any kind of disadvantage on us, and maybe we'll be able to box at the end of the formation lap to pit onto some wet compound tyres. I immediately set my next tyres to wet, and yeah, I'm going to get on the radio pretty soon and say, hey, I'm going to come into the pit lane. But yeah, we will we will see whether that proves to be possible or not. Obviously, I had to wait for my engineer to stop talking there. I told him that I went to box, and he basically said, "We're not interested, Charles." And yeah, we're going to have to unfortunately start the race on a set of medium compound tyres. That means I have tried boxing on a formation lap before in a Formula 1 game, and it just resets you to the grid. So there was no point in going for it if they weren't going to let me. And we're just going to have to see what we can do on a medium set of tyres in the wet now as the lights come on. And the lights go out, and I think we've had a good getaway there compared to Jahan Deruvala. It's so hard to tell because everyone is so slow off the line with these medium compound tyres in the wet conditions. Imola Wassa all over the shop there. We make a bit of contact with his rear wing there, and that allows Victor Martins to dive around the outside of a number of cars here. He's already up into P4, having been all the way down in like P10 or something like that, I think. And yeah, for us, we are currently in P8. We've made up a couple of positions on Kushmaini and Jahan Deruvala, but yeah, I'm just fighting the car all over the road. We can't keep it in a straight line. We're coming under pressure from Kushmaini now as he tries to go around the outside of us, but I think we're going to be able to just about keep our foot in. But every time I put the power down, you know, I'm just fighting for my life. It feels like the car is just naturally tending one way or another. It is far too wet to be on the medium compound tyres, and we have no choice but to come in at the end of this lap to box onto a set of wet compound tyres. So that is what we will be doing for now. It's just a case of trying not to lose too many positions if we can help it, trying to stay with the pack in front as best we can as well, to kind of ensure that, you know, if we can work our way through the field. We're currently on course for 1 point, but of course you can get up to 10 points in a sprint race if you win, and if you get the fastest lap you can actually get an 11th point as well. So yeah, there's big points available in the sprint race. And as a result of that, it is very, very important to try and maximise the outcome of the situation. So yeah, we're gonna just try and do what we can. But you can see that Iwasa and everyone else in front of us is starting to pull away from us a little bit here. I just can't quite seem to get things hooked up on the exit of the corners. No traction, as you might not be surprised to learn, given that we are on dry compound tyres in the wet. But at the end of the lap, we will, of course, now be peeling off into the pit lane. However, nobody else will for some reason. I'm the only one coming into the pit lane at the end of the first lap. I don't know if this is because the game seems to believe that the wet tyres can only do 12 laps around this circuit, and so obviously they are suggesting basically that maybe these cars wouldn't be able to make it to the end on a set of wet compound tyres. I would be prepared to run that risk. I don't know about you, I would 100% be prepared to take a risk and say, okay, I'm going to go on a set of wet compound tyres. They might not make it to the end of the race, but there is no way I was going to be able to drive on a set of medium compound tyres in these conditions for 12 laps or 13 laps or whatever. It was not happening. I was absolutely going to bin it at some point, and that would have been my race gone. You could see how much I was fighting for my life out there, just to stay on the track, never mind stay with the cars in front. So now I think we should have a much easier and smoother and more comfortable time of things on these wet compound tyres, and we will see if we can try and close the gap to the cars in front to a point that maybe we'll be able to pull off an undercut on some of the cars in front. As you can see, quite a few of them have peeled into pits now. There's still a lot who have stayed out, including the leading two drivers of Porsche and Behrman, but a few of the cars that were ahead of us, including like Martins, Leclerc, Vesti, Correa, all of those people, they've all come into the pits now, and they will be behind me on the wet compound tyres as well. But you know, as predicted, the undercut, as it were, worked an absolute treat there, because Correa was ahead of us, and now we are 4 seconds ahead of him. So yeah, not the best strategy there for everyone else, I don't think. Iwasa now coming into the pit lane as well. He was of course ahead of us before we pitted, and he will be quite significantly far back from us. And well, it's looking like the rest of these cars are going to stay out. So that's I believe Porsche, Behrman and Miney were the three cars who are sort of around us, who have yet to pit. And then also Crawford, Stanek and Benavides have chosen to stay out as well. So 6 cars currently in front of us as we get set an objective to set a lap time of 1:46.7. Now keep in mind I'm lapping in the 1:43s at the moment. You would imagine that this should be a fairly straightforward objective to meet unless I really, you know, make a massive mistake on both of the laps that I have to set this lap time. I'm currently going faster than my fastest lap time here anyway, and my fastest lap time is a 1:43.7. So yeah, as we round the final corner here, you can see no real problems whatsoever, and we're going to cross the line to do a 1:43.5, complete the objective, and yeah, I will take the free rating boost. Thank you very much, Formula 1 gods. 7.5 seconds is the gap back to Correa now. We just are getting further and further away from him. He does not have the pace to contend with us in the wet right now, and you can see that the gap is closing quite dramatically quickly to Crawford and Stanek in front by about 5 seconds a lap. So it's not too much of a surprise that 2 laps later, I was right on the back of him. And we're going to try and get ahead of Jack Crawford as quickly as we possibly can. He's not been particularly fast in any race so far this season anyway. So yeah, diving up the inside of the driver who at the time was of course backed by Red Bull. Now I believe he's part of the Aston Martin driver program. Was fairly trivial to do. And now we're going to see if we can outdrag Roman Stanek down the main pit straight as well. However, this is the one part of the lap where cars on the medium tyres will be roughly the same pace as me, if not even a little bit faster perhaps, because they are on those medium compound tyres. You know, it's just a big long straight. You don't need to have good tyres to be able to push flat out, and so it was a little bit difficult to get past Roman Stanek, but we got it done in the end, and now we're going to get past our teammate Brad Benavides here on the run into this following chicane. He's actually going to try and fight back against us. You know, I was pretty conservative throughout all of this. I was just trying not to push too hard to the point that I might make a mistake or something like that. There was absolutely no need. We're definitely going to get past Pourchaire and Behrman before the end of the race. They're only 5 seconds up the road from us. We've got 5 laps to do it, and it's still very wet. So yeah, I'm really not concerned about you know, not winning this race now, unless we make a big mistake or the rain suddenly stops. Because obviously I've kind of made my bed now, so even if it does get a little bit dry towards the end of the race, we're going to have to just, you know, see out the rest of the race on these wet compound tyres now. There's not really much we can do about that, but we are now up into the podium places as we get ahead of Kush Maini very easy on the exit of Agua Minerale. And yeah, the only 2 cars that we've got left to get ahead of now are Pourchaire and Behrman, which is kind of surprising, you know, given that I would have thought that it maybe would have been a little bit more difficult to get past some of these cars, given that it's going to be the corners that they are slow through, but obviously on the exit of the corners I guess they're slow as well. So yeah, by the end of lap 8, 7 laps after we pitted, we've gone from being about 35 seconds down on the cars in front, maybe even more than that, to being directly behind them. So yeah, we've caught them by, like I said, about 5 seconds a lap every lap, and that means that we should be getting ahead of them very soon, hopefully. You can see that they are kind of battling away to try and take P1 off one another as well. Obviously it's quite difficult to go for moves when you are both kind of fighting a tooth and nail to just keep on the track, as well as fighting with one another as well. So yeah, we are going to try and get ahead of Théo Pourchaire around the outside on the exit of this chicane now, but we have now been set an objective to manage our fuel, and if you look at the bottom right, you can see that we actually are over our fuel load. We've burnt too much as we are going to outdrag Oliver Behrman on the exit of this corner. So yeah, we're going to have to try and do some lift and coast for the next few laps if we want to make sure that we keep our fuel load above the objective that it is asking us to do so. And this was something I wasn't really expecting to happen. Obviously it's a fixed fuel load in Formula 2, so what you've got is what you've got. You know, you can't change the fuel load at the start of the race. I just had to do what I could with what I had, and we make our way on to the end of lap 11, so a couple laps later than when the objective was initially set. You can see that we are still not really in the green. We are just about in the green here as we make our way through the Ravatsas now, but it really was a really tricky objective to make, to meet, I guess, but we do eventually just about pass it. We were 4.14 as we crossed the line there, and I had to basically lift over the line to make sure I didn't burn too much. So yeah, we do manage to survive that objective just about, but we're still going to have to do more lift and coast, be gentle on the throttle on the exit of these corners, because there's still not necessarily a guarantee that we're going to make it to the end of the race. However, as we make our way into the final sector, you can see we've just about held on. The tyres did last to the end of the race. They are in that orange zone now, over 60% worn. I actually lapped Enzo Fittipaldi. If you look on the minimap, you can see that there is a car lane directly behind me. That is Enzo Fittipaldi, who, yeah, like I said, I lapped towards the end of the race. But yeah, despite all this lift and coast I'm doing, despite all the sort of fuel saving measures that I'm taking, I actually am still on a very fast lap. We are setting 2 purple sectors there, and we'll see if this is going to be a 3rd purple sector as we cross the line. We did improve the lap there, and it is P1, despite the fact that I had to do lift and coast for almost the entire second half of that race. Very good fuel saving measures, but yeah, I'm very happy to get the win there, especially from 10th on the grid. Remember, we're starting in P1 tomorrow, so we could potentially do the double this weekend.
Well, what a drive it was to take the win for PHM by Charouz today.
Well, qualifying pole puts you 10th position on the grid for the sprint race, but they managed to hoon through and win anyway. That's not expected, but it's brilliant.
Welcome then to the podium, our top 3 drivers. What a great effort from them today in a very difficult race.
So it is going to be me taking the top step of the podium. We've got Oliver Bearman for company in P2, and then it's Théo Pourchaire in P3. 2 drivers who, of course, have been linked with seats in Formula 1 potentially as well. Oliver Bearman, a driver who I am pretty hotly competing with, I suppose, for that second Haas seat if it does become available. So yeah, it feels good to be able to beat him here, especially considering he had a market advantage over us, and we'll see if we can win again in the feature.
After all this drama, you'd be mad not to join us for the next race. We hope to see you then. Take care.
So, the strategy of staying out actually does seem to have been the correct strategy, because everybody who did stay out ended up scoring points there, including Brad Benavides, who came P6 to score 3 points there. I can never say his name correctly. I had this problem as well in the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Juan Manuel Correa was the only other driver on the wet tyres who actually managed to score points as well. He did come through to get 1 point though, which, given that he boxed onto those wet tyres on lap 2, you would have thought that he would have done a little bit better than that, but I guess he just couldn't cut his way through the field like I could. So yeah, a great result given that we started P10. We carved our way through the field on those wet compound tyres. They were so slow, and I can't help but feel like they really just threw this one away on strategy, quite frankly. I don't know what they were thinking trying that, but yeah, the strategy we were on proved to be the correct one. There is a suggestion that there might be some rain in the feature race as well, so it'll be interesting to see whether that turns out to be true or not. But yeah, in terms of the performance that we've shown here today, I think we can be very, very happy with this result. You know, this was the race I wasn't expected to win. Obviously, the one I'm starting from pole position, you would have to back me first and foremost to win that one. But yeah, it is a really good feeling. It means that we will be able to extend our championship lead quite a lot. It means we'll be able to improve our driver rating by a significant amount as well. And this is the kind of race, especially given the margin I won it by, and you know, the fact that I was saving fuel for quite a lot of the race as well. It shows, you know, I've clearly got a cool head on my shoulders, I suppose, to be able to do that and not panic and not make mistakes and still come through to win the race. It's the kind of race that does make Formula 1 teams start to sit up and take notice of the performance that you're delivering. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if Fred Vasseur was watching this one from the pit wall, thinking to himself, "Yep, that's a driver we've got in our back pocket," and you know, maybe start to shift their attention away from the Ferrari-backed Oliver Bearman and onto myself. You know, Oliver Bearman at the end of the day was leading this race at one point and ended up, you know, having to settle in for second place. Obviously, the strategy can be blamed in some capacity. I feel like there will be questions that will be asked of that Prema team, but yeah, for us, just a really, really satisfying weekend, and I think one that we can be incredibly happy with. So now it is time for us to turn our attention to the feature race, the second race of the weekend, and we will see what we can do in that one.
Welcome to all those joining us as we kick off another round of thrilling Formula 2 racing at Imola. It's 3.1 miles around Imola with 19 turns to master, 9 right-handers and 10 left. And note as well that Imola is one of the few tracks that's driven anti-clockwise. Keep an eye on the exit from turn 18. A good exit there, leading into the circuit's only DRS zone, will probably be the setup for some of today's best overtaking opportunities. We're almost ready to go then, and this is what the starting grid looks like for today's race. Robinson lines up on pole position, and it's Jan Deruvela in P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Martins, Miney, Ayumu Awasa, Correa, Behrman, Vesti, Pourchaire, Arthur Leclerc, Cordial, Vachor, Brad Benavides, Ralph Boschong, Maloney, Hadjar, Hauger, Roman Stanek, Novalak, Crawford, Fittipaldi, and Jack Doohan completes the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track. It is the Formula 2 race. It is time to introduce you to Alex Brundle. I'm Alex Jakes, and we've got changeable weather out there today. That's making for some nervous team personnel down in the paddock, down in the pit lane.
Well, uncertainty is what strategy's all about, but it absolves the teams from the responsibility of running both compounds of tyre. They might have to use that wet tyre, of course, and then the question is, where do those crossovers lie between the wet and dry conditions?
Well, it is the first time that we've had that intro cutscene where they talk about changeable weather conditions, and it's actually been true because there is supposedly going to be some rain coming towards the end of this race. I didn't really think about it at the time, so I put myself on just a typical sort of dry strategy, but you know the kind of driver that I am very reactive to the conditions that's going on. If I need to box early, then I'm happy to do that. If I need to stay out and extend the stint a little bit longer to make sure that we can make it to the wet conditions and not have to box unnecessarily, then that's something else that I will be more than happy to do. So yeah, we're just gonna have to keep an eye on the sky and see whether we can react to any changeable weather conditions that may happen over the course of this race. Of course, the rain might not come until it's kind of too late to worry about it. In which case, obviously, that will mean we'll just follow the strategy that we set out for ourselves. But we'll see now if we can do the double as the lights come on. And the lights go out, and I think once again we've had a good getaway here compared to Jahan Deruvela. He was a bit slow off the line, and I think once again it's going to be Victor Martins who's going to have a bit of a lightning start here coming up into P2, but he's not going to be quite close enough to us to have any real opportunity to get past us. However, you can see that I initially go a bit deep into that corner, and that would have been a great opportunity for Martins to catch up for us, if not for the fact that Deruvela, I think, must have sent it on Victor Martins, and they're battling away, which, as we exceed track limits there, is allowing me to break out of that DRS range already. We are 2 seconds ahead in the space of just over a sector. So that is quite encouraging. It means we might just be able to break away, leave the rest of the cars in our dust, and yeah, just try and go to the end and hold on to the victory as best we can. But yeah, it was looking nervy for a second there. I was still kind of getting used to driving in the dry. You have to appreciate that I've only done 3 laps in the dry all weekend leading up to this point, because we did the 2 laps that I did in practice before it got wet. In fact, one of those was kind of partially wet anyway, so I'm being generous saying it was 2 laps. It's probably more like 1 lap. I did 1 lap in the dry in practice. I can't remember which program I did, but yeah, I did one in practice. I did 1 in qualifying, and then it got wet for the second flying lap, and then it was wet for the entirety of the sprint race. So I have very limited experience driving in the dry at Imola in this Formula 2 car this weekend. So yeah, still kind of learning the braking points, learning the performance of the super soft compound tyres. You know, this is only my second lap that I'd done all weekend on a set of super soft compound tyres. So yeah, it was pretty tough to kind of get used to it and kind of acclimatise myself to the track. But we were managing to hold on to the lead pretty nicely, and on lap 3 the message came that the rain was coming pretty soon. So that suggests to me that it definitely is going to start raining soon. You can see the sky noticeably getting darker on lap 6. However, one thing that cropped up once again, much like it did in the sprint, is that we are burning way too much fuel compared to what they expect us to be, and already we're looking like we're going to fall into the negative range. If you look in the bottom right, you can see that we are 0.03 on fuel. Make our way now onto lap 7, and we've been lifting and coasting quite a lot to make sure that we don't go over that sort of that fuel target that we've been set. And what that's done is that's invited all the cars behind back into the fight. You know, initially they were far down on us. They weren't in DRS range, and everything was looking fine. But as it's starting to rain now, you can see that they are all kind of coming back at me and putting pressure on me. We're going to ignore the call to come into the pit lane. Obviously, that was a strategy I devised myself. I don't think it's the right strategy for the situation because the rain is coming down now, and it won't be long, I imagine, until the track is in a position where we can go onto a set of wet compound tyres. But we've lost out to Daruvla and Martans, unfortunately, due to this situation that we find ourselves in, where we have to save all that fuel. We are a bit of a sitting duck. We don't hit the objective. We were narrowly off the target. I think we were maybe sort of 0.1 kilograms under where we needed to be by the time we got to the line. So I still think that we have a good opportunity of meeting that target, just as long as we don't push too hard and as long as we keep taking part in these fuel saving measures. And yeah, we are going to now on lap number 10 be in P3 once again, because even though Miney got ahead of us, he's now pitted onto a set of medium compound tyres, I believe. And I've decided it's getting to the point now where it's wet enough that we could consider going on to the wet compound tyres. I still think it's a little bit wet, or a little bit dry I should say, to be certain that this is going to be the strategy to go on to. However, I think that it might work out for us. I think right now it will probably be a situation where the tyres will have a very similar pace. The wets and the dries will have quite similar pace. So we're just going to have to work this one out. See if it is the right thing to do, and yeah, just hope that that we can make this strategy work and not lose too much time if the mediums are faster at the moment. Obviously, we still have to do the fuel saving measures as well, so we're going to have to hope that the track gets nice and wet very, very quickly from this point onwards. A few cars pulling off a bit of an undercut there, including Vesti and Porsche there. You can see have come through. I think Iwasa was another one, and I think Miney is now in the lead of the race. So we'll see if he can hold on to that one. Everybody else who boxed went onto a set of medium compound tyres. Assumedly, they're going to try and take those to the end of the race. However, this might prove to be the wrong idea, given that not only have we stayed with Victor Martins here, but we are now going to look for a move up the inside. We have a bit more braking performance going into the Ravazzas, and we've got ahead of Victor Martins as we make our way around the final corner on lap number 12. You can see we are still doing these fuel saving measures. We're going to have to conserve fuel all the way to the end of the race now, basically, if we want any chance. I'm lifting and coasting into every corner. I'm being gentle on the throttle on the exit of every corner, and yeah, still we are barely going green on the fuel. So it is going to be a very, very difficult 6 laps towards the end of the race. But as I'm told, obviously the gap is coming down to the cars in front. However, we may have yet another issue here, which is that I am wearing out the tyres extremely fast. We've been on these tyres for 2 laps, and already they are 20% worn. So we are really going to have to stop pushing them to the level that we have been so far. You can see on the exit of the corners, I'm wearing them out by like 1% every single time. And with 1.5 laps left to go, we can only wear them out by a further 7%, or things are going to get ugly for us. The good news is that the track is getting wetter and wetter, which means we'll be wearing out the tyres at a slower rate, because the wetter the track is on a set of wet tyres, the less you're going to wear out the tyres. I think a big reason why they were getting so worn in the first couple of laps is because we were basically on a dry track. But eventually, obviously, the DRS got disabled. We've got ahead of Teo Porsche now, and I think we're going to put some pressure on Frederick Vesti here as well. But I tell you what, making overtakes, even when you're on a set of wet compound tyres in the wet and everybody else is on the dries, is not easy when you also have to conserve the tyres, conserve the fuel. Basically, we're in full management mode right now in this race. I'm having to be super gentle on the exit of the corners. I'm having to be super gentle on the throttle as well. Not like pull the steering wheel too much to the point that you know, I'm being really aggressive on the tyres. It is a serious balancing act right now here in Imola, and if I'm not careful, you know, we could get to a position where we're going to have a puncture by the end of the race, or we've run out of fuel before we make it to the line, or something like that. And that is the last thing that we want right now, as Brad Benavides is coming into the pit lane again for some reason. Feels a bit late to do that and go onto a set of wet compound tyres now, I must admit. But we are closing down the cars in front still, and hopefully we'll be able to get ahead of Daruvula, Iwasa, and I believe it is Miney in first place, and hopefully, yeah, take the second win of the weekend for us. As you can see, we have out-tractioned Daruvula quite heavily on the exit of the chicane there. Not really too much of a surprise, and even with lift and coast, even with being as gentle on the throttle and as gentle on the tyres as I can possibly be, it's still just absolutely trivial getting past these guys. It's trivial closing them down. I probably would be in first right now if I could push at 100% of my pace, but alas, we can't do that, because otherwise we will not make it to the end of the race. So yeah, as we attack Iwasa into the chicane, I think we should hopefully be okay on the tyres now. We've got 1.5% nearly left in the tyre before we're going to exceed the amount they want for this objective. So yeah, I think overall our tyre saving has been good enough here, and we should be able to get ahead of Miney pretty soon as well, you would imagine, as we come on the exit of Ravazza 2 now into the start-finish straight for lap number 16 now, and we do pass the objective. So yeah, that is good. That's going to be an extra boost to our rating. It's going to be pretty nice because we did fail that fuel-saving objective earlier in the race as well, so it's nice to pass one as well, and it shouldn't be too long now before we get ahead of Kushmaini for the lead of the feature race here in Imola, and well, we'll be on for the double at that point. As long as we don't make any mistakes in the last couple of laps, it should be a fairly trivial situation we find ourselves in. As you can see, Kushmaini is really struggling on those medium compound tyres. He's struggling to even keep it on the track, and eventually we just breeze past him and make our way into P1 for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Once again, obviously we led the sprint race and won that one, and as we make our way onto the final lap, you can see the gap behind now is 12 seconds, and this was still with me conserving the tyres, conserving the fuel. It was an absolutely trivial affair at this point because of how slow they were, because these guys just refused to go onto the wet compound tyres. I do not understand the rationale behind this whatsoever. I don't know if strategies in the wet are just broken in Formula 2 or what, or, you know, I have no clue as to why this has happened. But, I mean, look, it worked for them, and it's basically worked for them again. It means that they haven't beaten me, as we are going to cross the line to take our second first-place finish of the weekend. We do the double. We're going to extend our championship lead by an absolute ton. Obviously, Iwasa did get the podium here in the feature race, but he failed to score in the sprint race. So that should be, I believe, a 16-point extension for us in the championship.
Here's our winner, pulling their PHM by Charouz into Parc Fermé then. What a fantastic race.
Well, they've won, and then they've won again. Back to back. Momentum really building for them at this stage of the season.
And as the adrenaline dies down after another eventful race, here come our top three out onto the podium.
Yep, it was 2 victories in a row for me this weekend at Imola, and it's going to be another podium for both Kushmaini and Ayumu Iwasa. Ayumu Iwasa, I imagine off the back of this, will stay in that P2 position in the standings, but I think we actually might extend it by more than 16 points. I haven't worked out exactly how many it's going to be yet, but yeah, we would be leading him by a comfortable margin once again in this championship now, going into the next race on the calendar.
Well, what a weekend that has been. Please join us next time for another thrilling instalment when Formula 2 returns.
Yep, so it's 38 points we scored. For some reason I had it in my head it was 31, but it's not. It's 38 points we've scored this weekend, which, as you can see, Brad Benavides had a really difficult race there, finishing a P22. I accidentally forgot to show the drivers' standings at the end of the video for a change. I just completely passed me by when I was recording. So, yeah, I believe that is a 24-point lead we now hold over Ayumu Iwasa in the drivers' standings, which is very, very comfortable for this stage of the season. You know, we're only 5 weekends deep. There's still another 18 races left on the calendar, 9 race weekends, and the next one, for those of you who are curious, for those of you who don't know the Formula 1 calendar, sorry, the Formula 2 calendar, I should say, it is the Monaco Grand Prix. So that is going to be a very interesting race for me. I've yet to race Monaco on this game at all in a Formula 1 car or a Formula 2 car. Obviously, it's very early days. I've not had a chance to drive around every single circuit on the calendar. However, yeah, Monaco is one of the ones that I most definitely have not. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how that one works out. Of course, like I said, I'm still operating under this this difficulty calibration system where every time I win, I'm upping the difficulty. Every time I finish outside of the points, I'm lowering the difficulty. So, you know, we started the Azerbaijan Grand Prix last race on 99. We bumped it down to 97. We're back up to 99 now. As is the nature of, you know, going from 2 pointless finishes in Azerbaijan to 2 wins in Imola. So we will be starting the Monaco Grand Prix at least on 99 AI difficulty. We'll see whether I can compete with the cars around me on that difficulty, or whether it will be a bit of a tricky one for myself that weekend. You know, I can imagine it won't be the easiest of rides. Monaco has never been one of my strongest tracks, but as long as we can get a good qualifying there, I am optimistic that we can have a good race there as well. And we're getting to the point where we're almost halfway through the Formula 2 calendar now. It's come thick and fast, but it has been really fun, actually. I'm really enjoying this this season. I'm really enjoying the storyline, and yeah, it's looking good for us at the moment that we will have an opportunity to get a Formula 2 championship under our belt, really gain some good experience driving, and really start to impress the Formula 1 teams. I've heard that there are quite a few teams who are potentially looking to replace a driver at their team, but they will only go into the market for the right driver. That's the rumor mill that I'm hearing that is beginning to swirl. You know, Haas potentially looking at replacing Kevin Magnussen. He's not had a particularly stellar start to the season compared to Nico Hülkenberg. Again, the Alfa Romeos, they're looking to maybe have somebody else in their team to take them into the era where they're going to be going green. There's talk that Logan Sargent might be dropped at Williams at some point. He's not been particularly stellar, and also maybe even at AlphaTauri, who apparently are supposed to be rebranding next season. There is talk that they might be dropping a driver, or even both of their drivers. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that one shakes out, and whether we see any driver replacements on next year's grid or not. But certainly I will be targeting a seat on that Formula 1 grid for the following season. But that is going to be it for this video. So if you enjoyed, please make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.